Hello hockey fans and welcome back to another video. It's been 36 days since the 21-22 KHL season commenced, and to say that a lot has happened since the league dropped the puck back on September 1st would be quite the understatement. From 16-year-old Matvei Michkov scoring 3 points in just his third KHL game, to both Jokerit and Magnitogorsk recording 11-game winning streaks. From Lokomotiv firing their head coach just 9 games into the season, to Admiral Vladivostok making its triumphant return to the league, there's been no shortage of storylines to start the year. In the midst of all this action though, there are a number of players who have already separated themselves from the pack thanks to their strong play during the first month of the season, and while many of them have spent most if not their entire pro careers solely in Europe, there are a number of these players who used to suit up in the best league in the world. Given that there are so many NHL alumni that now ply their trade in the K, and given that many of these players have hit the ground running since the 21-22 season got underway, I figured that it would be worth taking a closer look at the handful of players who have used their experience in North America to really stand out from the crowd so far this year. So in today's video, allow me to take you through my list of 10 former NHLers who are dominating the Continental Hockey League this season. Before we begin, this video is sponsored by the Pigskin Podcast Network and their partnership with DraftKings. To kick off another action-packed week of NFL goodness, DraftKings is giving new customers an instant gift of $150 when they bet $1 on any football game. Listen up guys, because you certainly don't want to miss out on this great deal. Head to the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and place a $1 bet on any football game to receive $150 in free bets instantly and give yourself a chance to win millions of dollars in total prizes. Just a single dollar deposit for $150 in free bets? Sounds like a great deal to me, folks. If sportsbooks aren't yet available in your state or country though, don't you worry, as DraftKings has huge cash prizes all season long with their daily fantasy contests, so you can put your knowledge to the test and make it rain on whatever sport is your go-to. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code TPPN to receive $150 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any football game. That's promo code TPPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. But anyways, back to the video. Kicking things off at number 10, we have Kenny Agostino. The only player on this list to be featured in my previous KHL video a few weeks ago, Kenny Agostino has made quite the first impression during his debut year overseas. A 5th round pick in the 2010 draft by the Pittsburgh Penguins, Agostino would take to the ice in 86 NHL games over parts of 6 seasons between 6 different teams, scoring 8 goals and 30 points in the process. After spending nearly the entirety of the 2021 season with the AHL's Toronto Marlies, except for a 1-game call-up by the Leafs, the American forward decided to take his talents across the pond, as he signed with the KHL's Torpedo Nizhny Novgorod on June 1st, 2021. Since then, Agostino has suited up for Torpedo during the current 21-22 season and has wasted little time becoming one of the most productive players across the entire league. Having scored 9 goals and 14 points in his first 14 games of the season, the former 5th round draft pick is the top scorer on Torpedo's roster and is currently tied for 10th place in scoring across the entire KHL at the time of this recording. Not bad for a first-year player in the league, eh folks? Considering that he has already made such an impact in the league, despite making his debut a little over a month ago, I wouldn't be surprised if the 29-year-old finished his first season abroad with some pretty impressive scoring numbers. After all, if his performance so far is anything to go by, Agostino should be just fine. Next up at number 9, we have Sergey Plotnikov. One of the more inexperienced players at the NHL level on this list, Sergey Plotnikov has put his decade of KHL experience to pretty great use during the opening month of the season. An undrafted player in each of his years of eligibility, Plotnikov would earn a contract with the Pittsburgh Penguins on July 1st, 2015, after a 36-point year with the KHL's Lokomotiv Yaroslavl during the prior 14-15 season. From there, the Russian forward would suit up in 45 NHL games, exclusively during the 15-16 season, split between the Penguins and the Arizona Coyotes, where he scored just 3 points for his efforts. Following a 13-game stint in Arizona, Plotnikov would quickly return home to the K as he joined SKA St. Petersburg for the following 16-17 season. The undrafted forward would then spend the next 4 years of his career exclusively with the team, and even serve as captain of the roster during his final year in St. Petersburg, before moving to Metallurg Magnitogorsk for the recent 2021 season. After a 13-goal, 43-point year with Metallurg, Plotnikov would join his third team since returning to Russia and the fifth KHL side of his career, as he signed a one-year contract with CSKA Moscow on July 6, 2021. Since the 21-22 season began, Plotnikov has joined Moscow's roster for his 12th KHL season and made quite the first impression for his new side. With 6 goals and 14 points in his first 14 games of the season, Plotnikov is not only scoring at a point-per-game pace for the first time in his pro career, he is already the top scorer on CSKA's roster by a pretty notable margin. Not bad for an undrafted player, right guys? Given that he will set new career highs if he continues his current scoring pace for the rest of the year, here's hoping that the 31-year-old can keep it up over the course of the season and reach new heights in his career. Whether he does or doesn't though, it seems like making the move to Moscow has worked out pretty well for him so far. Moving on to number 8, we have Peter Cehlarik. Another more inexperienced NHLer on this list, Peter Cehlarik has looked anything but during his debut season in the KHL. A third-round pick by the Boston Bruins in the 2013 draft, Cehlarik suited up in 40 NHL games, split over 4 different seasons exclusively with the Bruins, where he scored 5 goals and 11 points in the process. After a 3-game stint with Boston during the 2019-20 season, the Slovakian forward would spend the rest of that year with Boston's minor league affiliate in Providence, moved to Sweden for the following 2021 season, and scored 40 points in 45 games for SHL side Leksand before securing a contract in Europe's top league, as he signed a 1-year deal with the KHL's Avangard Omsk on June 17, 2021. Having made the move to Russia for the first time in his career, the 26-year-old has hit the ground running during his debut year in the K. With 8 goals and 12 points in his first 12 KHL games, Cehlarik has not only gotten off to a great start, he sits second in scoring on Avangard's roster and is just 2 points away from a place in the league's top 10, despite playing less games than many of the players higher than him on the list. Talk about making a strong first impression, eh folks? Since he has already produced impressive numbers so early into his KHL career, I wouldn't be surprised if Cehlarik found a more permanent home in the league for the foreseeable future if he keeps up this production for the rest of the year. Will he do so? I guess we'll have to wait and see. At the 7th spot on this list, we have Markus Granlund. One of the KHL's best players last year, Markus Granlund has wasted little time picking up right where he left off during the first month of the new season. A second-round pick by the Calgary Flames in the 2011 draft, Granlund spent parts of 7 seasons in the NHL, split between the Flames, the Vancouver Canucks and the Edmonton Oilers, scoring 58 goals and 101 points in that span. After splitting the 2019-20 season between the Oilers and their AHL affiliate, the Finnish forward headed back across the pond for the first time in 7 years and tried his luck in the KHL, as he signed a 2-year contract with Salavat Yuleev on July 17, 2020. Having made the move to Russia for the first time in his career, Granlund would waste little time becoming one of the best players in the K during his debut year in the league, as he finished 8th place in scoring thanks to potting 23 goals and 53 points in just 50 regular season games. Despite the notable pressure to continue his strong play from his opening year, Granlund hasn't skipped a beat during the first month of the 21-22 season. Entering the final year of his contract with Salavat, the 28-year-old forward has scored 2 goals and 14 points in his first 14 games of the year. Now that's how you lead by example, folks. Given his strong debut season in the league last year, and given his impressive numbers to start the current season, I don't expect Granlund to slow down anytime soon. I mean, I said the same thing about him last season, and he ended up proving me right, so why would I change my opinion now, you know? Next, at number 6, we have Brendan Leipsic. One of the more controversial names to be featured on this list, Brendan Leipsic is certainly making a name for himself during his sophomore season in the K. A third-round pick in the 2012 draft by the Nashville Predators, Leipsic would take to the ice in 187 NHL games over parts of 3 seasons split between 4 different teams, where he scored 16 goals and 59 points for his efforts. After spending the 2019-20 season with the Washington Capitals, and after having the remainder of his contract bought out by the team following some questionable DMs that were leaked from his private Instagram account, Leipsic would leave North America behind and continue his pro career in Russia, as he signed a one-year contract with the KHL CSKA Moscow on August 4th, 2020. Despite the controversial circumstances that forced his career overseas, the former third-round pick would score 11 goals and 24 points in 42 games during his debut season abroad before moving elsewhere in the league, as he was traded to Eastern Conference side Metallurg Magnitogorsk on May 7th, 2021. Since then, Leipsic has joined Metallurg for the 21-22 KHL season, signed a 2-year contract with the team, and has made quite the first impression for his new side. Thanks to his 4 goals and 13 points in his first 13 games of the year, Leipsic is not only scoring at a point-per-game pace well over a month into the season, he has helped lead Magnitogorsk to one of the best regular season records across the entire league. He certainly could be doing a lot worse for himself, folks? Since he has already found great success this season, and since he would likely still be playing in the NHL if it wasn't for his off-ice drama, here's hoping that Leipsic has learned from his mistakes, has turned over a new leaf, and has worked towards becoming just as great off the ice as he has been on it recently. After all, it would be a real shame if his strong play continued to be overshadowed by his behaviour away from the rink. Halfway through this list now, at number 5, we have Corbin Knight. The last entry in this video with double-digit games played in the NHL, Corbin Knight may not have spent long in the show, but he has wasted little time becoming one of the K's top scorers so far this year. A 5th-round pick in the 2009 draft by the Florida Panthers, Knight would spend parts of 4 seasons in the NHL, split between the Panthers, the Calgary Flames and the Philadelphia Flyers, scoring 4 goals and 12 points in 52 games in the process. Following a 23-game stint with the Flyers during the 18-19 season, the Canadian forward would spend the rest of that year in the minors before taking his talents overseas, as he joined Baris Nur-Sultan of the KHL on May 28, 2019. After a 20-goal, 40-point year with the team during the 2019-20 season, Knight would join fellow KHL side Avangard Omsk for the recent 2021 season, where he produced almost identical scoring numbers with 18 goals and 40 points in 57 games, and got his hands on his first championship, as he helped Avangard Omsk win the 2021 Gagarin Cup. Since the 21-22 season commenced, Knight has somehow found a way to take his game to a completely different level. With 6 goals and 13 points in just 12 games so far this season, Knight has not only become Avangard's leading scorer, he is scoring at over a point-per-game pace for the first time in his pro career. Pretty good for a guy who played just 52 NHL games, folks? Given that he has always been a productive player in the K, and given that he seems to have kicked things up a notch early this year, I wouldn't be surprised if the 31-year-old produced career-high scoring numbers, or even finished the season as a point-per-game player once the final buzzer sounds. After all, if his recent production is anything to go by, he seems to have gotten pretty comfortable playing on the other side of the world. At the 4th spot on this list, we have Anders Lindback. The only goaltender to be featured in this video, Anders Lindback has gotten his season off to a great start once again, thanks to his strong numbers between the pipes. A 7th-round pick by the Nashville Predators in the 2008 draft, Lindback suited up in 130 NHL games over parts of 6 seasons split between 5 different teams, where he posted a 45, 58 and 8 record, a 2.87 goals against average, and a .904 save percentage for his efforts. Following a 19-game stint with the Arizona Coyotes during the 15-16 season, Lindback would spend the next few years bouncing between the AHL, the SHL and the Swiss National League, before joining the KHL for the 2019-20 season, as he signed a 1-year contract with Torpedo on May 7th, 2019. After putting up strong numbers for the Russian side, the Swedish netminder would make the move to Jokerit for the recent 2021 season, where he made a pretty good first impression for his new team, thanks to registering a 10-9-2 record, a 2.45 goals against average, and a .919 save percentage in 23 games. This season though, Lindback is back between the pipes for Jokerit and has wasted little time getting his sophomore year with the Finnish side off to a great start. With a 7-1-0 record, a 1.99 goals against average, and a .918 save percentage in 8 games, Lindback has not only exploded out of the gate, his performance in the crease has helped Jokerit secure one of the best records in the league as he backstopped the team for much of their recent 11-game winning streak. Not bad for a 7th round draft pick, folks? Given that he is on pace to record his best KHL season yet, and given that he signed a 2-year contract extension with Jokerit during the recent offseason, I think this deal will end up working out pretty well for both the player and the team in the long run, don't you? Moving on to number 3, we have Slava Voynov, the only defenseman in this video, and another entry who exited the NHL under controversial circumstances. Slava Voynov hasn't played much pro hockey over the last few years, but the extra rest seems to have worked wonders for him so far this season. A second-round pick in the 2008 draft by the Los Angeles Kings, Voynov spent parts of 4 seasons in the NHL exclusively with LA, scoring 18 goals and 81 points in 190 games in the process. Not only that, the Russian defenseman would also lift the greatest trophy that the sport has to offer on multiple occasions, as he clinched both the 2012 and 2014 Stanley Cup championships as a member of the Kings. A cup championship every 2 seasons of your NHL career sounds pretty good to me, folks. After being suspended indefinitely from the league just 6 games into the 14-15 season due to being investigated for domestic violence charges, and after having his contract terminated by the Kings following the lengthy court proceedings surrounding said charges, Voynov would return home to Russia and join KHL side SKA St. Petersburg on October 29, 2015. From there, the blue liner would spend the rest of that year, as well as the following 2 seasons with SKA, sit out the entire 18-19 KHL season, move to Avangard Omsk for the 2019-20 season, before taking time away from the game once again, as he sat out the entirety of the recent 2021 season too. Having been on the sidelines for 2 of the last 3 years now, and having played just 59 games of pro hockey since 2018, Voynov decided that he wanted to lace up his skates again and return to the K, but this time with a brand new team, as he signed a 2-year contract with Dynamo Moscow on May 20th, 2021. Since then, Voynov has made the move to Moscow to join Dynamo for the 21-22 season, and though he has only played a handful of games over the last few years, the 31-year-old hasn't skipped a beat. With 2 goals and 14 points in his first 11 games of the year, Voynov is not only scoring at over a point-per-game pace over a month into the season, he is tied for 10th place in scoring across the entire league, and has registered more points than any other blue liner so far this season. These numbers would be impressive enough as a forward, but as a defenseman, talk about rising from the ashes, folks? Given his unconventional journey over the last few years, and given the controversy that has surrounded him in recent seasons, here's hoping that Voynov has left his issues in the past, has turned over a new leaf, and continues to put up great numbers for his new side. After all, it's much better to talk about his strong play on the ice than the trouble he gets up to off it, right guys? Penultimately, at number 2, we have Nikolai Goldobin. The youngest entry on this list, Nikolai Goldobin has bounced back in a big way during his sophomore season back home. The 27th overall pick of the 2014 draft by the San Jose Sharks, Goldobin would suit up in 125 NHL games over parts of 5 seasons split between the Sharks and the Vancouver Canucks, where he scored 19 goals and 46 points for his efforts. After spending nearly the entirety of the 2019-20 season in the minors with the Utica Comets, except for a 1-game stint with Vancouver, and after scoring 50 points in 51 AHL games, the Russian forward decided to leave North America behind and head back home, as he signed a 2-year contract with KHL side CSKA Moscow on June 18, 2020. Having returned to Russia for the first time in 8 years, Goldobin would suit up for Moscow for the first time and look to get his KHL career off to a good start. After scoring 11 points in his first 21 games of the year, the former first-round pick was traded to Metallurg Magnitogorsk midway through the season on December 14, 2020. From there, Goldobin would spend the rest of the year with Metallurg and scored 18 points in his last 19 games of the season, bringing his full season totals to 6 goals and 19 points in 40 regular season games. During the current 21-22 season, Goldobin continues to suit up for Metallurg as he embarks on his first full season with Magnitogorsk, and to say that he has hit the ground running would be quite the understatement. Not only has he been one of Metallurg's most productive scorers straight out of the gate, Goldobin's 8 goals and 16 points in just 11 games tie him for 4th place in scoring across the entire KHL. Now that's how you start a season strong, folks. Since he has almost scored as many points as he did last season in almost a quarter of the games played, I think Goldobin has gotten pretty comfortable playing back home, don't you? I mean, the guy scored a hat-trick and registered 4 points in a game earlier this week, so I think he'll be just fine over the coming months. Before we reach the top spot on this list, I would like to give a quick honourable mention to Philippe Mallier. Now, most of you watching this probably don't know who Mallier is, and you would be forgiven for doing so. After all, he was left undrafted during each of his years of eligibility, played just 2 NHL games, both with the Washington Capitals during the recent 2021 season, and he went scoreless in that span. However, after leaving North America behind at the end of last season, and after joining Metallurg Magnitogorsk for the current year, Mallier currently sits second in scoring across the entire KHL, thanks to potting 6 goals and 18 points in his first 13 games of the year. Not bad for a guy who never scored over a point per game pace since turning pro, eh folks? And finally, at number 1, we have Vadim Shipachyov. Veteran of the least number of NHL games on this list, Vadim Shipachyov's North American career may have been the epitome of brief, but he takes the top spot on this list thanks to his absolutely incredible scoring numbers just a month into the season. An undrafted forward in each of his years of eligibility, Shipachyov would sign a 1-year contract with the Vegas Golden Knights on May 5th, 2017, after scoring 190 points in 153 KHL games over his last 3 seasons of play. Unfortunately though, his time overseas would be very fleeting. After playing just 3 NHL games during the 17-18 season, and with him scoring his first NHL goal in that span, Shipachyov would terminate his contract with the Golden Knights and return home to Russia less than a week into the regular season after Vegas tried to send him down to the minors. Having returned to the KHL for the remainder of the 17-18 season, Shipachyov would rejoin SKA St. Petersburg and score 25 points in 22 games before moving to Dynamo Moscow for the 18-19 season. From there, the undrafted forward would make the move to Russia's capital and waste little time cementing his reputation as the best player in the league. Over the last 3 seasons, Shipachyov has scored 200 points in just 179 KHL games, has led the entire league in scoring in back-to-back years, and has been named an All-Star twice. Oh, and he was also named the league's MVP and won the Golden Stick Award during the recent 2021 season, thanks to his 67 points in 57 games, just in case you weren't impressed enough already. This season though, Shipachyov seems to have taken his game to a completely different level during the opening month of play. Serving as the captain of Dynamo's roster for the 3rd straight season, the 34-year-old comfortably sits at the top of the KHL scoring list thanks to notching a whopping 9 goals and 28 points in just 13 games. Yes, you heard that right folks, 28 points in 13 games. Talk about hitting the ground running, right guys? Considering he has already scored more points than most players will register over the entire season in just a dozen games played, and given that he will completely obliterate the KHL single-season points record if he keeps up this pace for the rest of the year, I think it's safe to say that Vadim Shipachyov has earned his place at the top spot on this list, don't you? I mean, the guy's scoring at over 2 points a game. What more could you ask of him? I guess leaving the NHL behind wasn't such a bad decision after all. And that was a look at the top 10 former NHLers who are dominating the KHL so far this season. What do you guys think about my list? Are you surprised that some of these entries have played so well, or did I leave somebody completely obvious out? Let me know in the comments below, I would love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching guys, I hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye! A big thank you to Drew Fawcett, Houston NG, and Worthless Pieces for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further, and get a shout out at the end of every future video, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.